UFC welterweight champion George St-Pierre takes on #1 ranked contender John Fitch. Lightweight wrecking machine Kenny Florian goes toe-to-toe with crowd favorite Roger Huerta. Former pro wrestling superstar Brock Lesnar battles the Texas Crazy Horse Heath. The countdown to UFC 87 starts now.
Last time I fought, it was the best moment of my life. I was fighting in front of my hometown crowd. It was amazing.
I've never been in an atmosphere of this magnitude. It was unbelievable. There was a guy sitting next to me. I was talking to him. We couldn't hear each other.
Wow. What? I can't hear you.
Exactly.
Lesnar was, for me, the perfect villain. Because even before the fight, he came and he waved to the crowd, and even the crowd didn't like him. He keeps smiling.
If you're pissed right now, wait till after Saturday night.
It was a perfect scenario for the fans.
And here we go again!
George went in there to make it a high-paced fight early, get him moving, get him working.
George St-Pierre's hands.
Big ones there!
When we felt he was going to be broken, we were going to go for the kill, and that's what happened.
St-Pierre, relentless in his attack. More knees by GSP. George St-Pierre is the undisputed UFC welterweight champion.
When the referee stopped that fight, I was on the top of the world. I felt like I was untouchable.
I've never seen him so happy. It was great. Best night of his life.
George is a world champion, and he's defeated everybody he's ever fought.
George St-Pierre has been the world champ before. Last time, he failed to defend his title, getting knocked out by heavy underdog Matt Serra.
Wow! Speechless. Unbelievable.
I learned a lot of stuff when he became champion. Everybody tell you how great you are. And sometimes you forget that you're a human being and nobody's invincible. You can be beat as everybody else.
I'm always telling George that first belt you won, you were champion only for that day. On August 9th, there's a new world title. There's a whole new war to be fought. And the wars of the past, forget about it.
No, I've never been so motivated. I know I have a challenge on my hand. Last time I blew it. Now this time it won't happen again.
George's opponent, John Fitch, is undefeated in the UFC and hasn't lost in more than 5 years. He started gaining notice after a June 2006 victory over rising star Thiago Alves.
And we are underway.
Thiago hit him with a right hand right in the opening and set him right on his butt. He clipped me. It was like the first 10 seconds, and I tricked him. I baited him with a guillotine. I said, here's my neck, take it.
He's got a guillotine. He's got it locked up.
It's part of my game is I give submissions to people to gain position and do damage. Thiago took the bait. He jumped right on my neck. I popped out, and then from there on, it was just, you know, I grounded him out and grinded on him all the way to the end of the second round where I knocked him out.
Fitch pulled a similar trick 4 months later.
Right to the triangle. Got to watch the triangle.
John sits right in a triangle and sits there for 3 minutes.
Fitch is in deep trouble here.
We're having heart attacks.
Fitch able to work his way out.
And just proceeds to pound him out because he got to warm himself out trying to choke him.
I saw all the John Fitch fights. He's very well-rounded. He can fight standing up, can fight on the ground as well.
I've never been gifted in any area. I've never been faster than anyone. I've never been stronger than anyone. I'm just a hard worker.
John, he works for everything. It all comes through hours of blood, sweat, and tears for him.
Fitch's 8 consecutive wins ties the UFC record, held by the legendary Royce Gracie.
That's a hell of a statement, to be out there and take 8 fights
it's a tremendous accomplishment.
Winning fight after fight is a great confidence booster. But sometimes it can give you illusions. You think you cannot get hurt, and then all of a sudden you do, and you're confused.
Complete domination in that fight.
I totally agree that if you win 8 in a row, this gives you a false sense of immortality, but not with Fitch. It's very simple. Not with Fitch.
John Fitch is not overconfident. He knows he's fighting one of the pound-for-pound best in the world. How can you be too confident when you're going into that situation?
John Fitch is a blood and guts fighter. If you see his wins, yes, he has 8 wins in a row, but he fought hard for all those 8 wins.
He's got it!
That's why we're going to win. That's a champion. I don't see guys with quick wins as great champions at all.
If you look at George's wins, they're very clean. We don't want George to be a blood and guts fighter.
I take pride, massive amounts of pride, in being referred to as a blood and guts fighter and a grinder. I am. I've always been that type of wrestler. I've always been that type of person.
We're anticipating a bloody, gritty, gutty fight, and we're going in there to get that win any way possible, whether it's kicking, screaming, clawing, biting.
I'm going to be in your face, and you're going to have to kill me to win.
He's the #1 guy right now, and I'm glad to fight him.
I'm going to take that belt from him. I'm going to be the one that proves that he's not the greatest fighter out there.
Coming up, John Fitch, the early years.
No one knew who he was. He was the dark horse working his way up through the ranks.
Dana approached me and he said, we're going to change that in the future. We're going to make sure people know who you are.
Some of you want a career in MMA, some of you want the UFC belt, whatever it is. If you're dedicated, you're going to be a champion. There's one guy that's really stood out, and you stand out, you understand dedication, you get rewarded. It's very simple. So I want to introduce you to the first raised by me white belt to black belt, John Fitch.
I kind of kept my back to you guys because I was fighting back the tears. I didn't want to get that on camera.
Talent doesn't mean anything to me. It really doesn't.
Congratulations.
Would I like a fighter to have talent? Sure. But is it far second to drive? Oh, yeah.
I grew up in Fort Wayne, Indiana, kind of out in the country a little bit. And when you consider Fort Wayne, Indiana, even downtown's still country. You know, I spent a lot of time running around the woods barefoot, you know, and just in my shorts, no shirt. So I was a little bit of a country boy, I guess. From as far as I can remember, I thought I was going to be a professional football player. When I was growing up, it was around the time of the '85 Bears, and we had Singletary, and, you know, there are still stories about Buck Kiss. Just tough guys.
John is a very competitive person. We recognized this from when he was real little.
At Carroll High, John was a football star and an all-state wrestler.
He had a tremendous work ethic. If we asked him to do something 10 times, he went and did it 20. He wanted to do whatever he had to make sure he was successful.
Coach would want to show us a technique, and he'd have us come in around the circle and take a knee. And John would be over there watching Coach, but doing like 50 push-ups while I was doing it. And I remember looking at him thinking, do I got to do that now, too?
John has the ability to drive himself like, you know, really no other person that I've ever been able to see, to witness and do. And he's able to accomplish goals where a lot of people can't.
I decided to try to walk on and wrestle in the toughest conference around, which is the Big Ten.
Florian, Johnny Nice!
A lot of the top wrestlers in practice just hated to wrestle against him because he would just literally beat them up.
After the first year, I'd worked hard enough, the coaches realized that I was a hard worker, and, you know, and they paid for my books.
By the time he graduated, he was captain of the wrestling team.
I started getting towards the end of my college career, and I wasn't done competing. I still had that hunger, and I still felt like I was improving as an athlete. But, like, it just sucked because, oh, my career's over now.
That's when John decided to try his hand at mixed martial arts.
My first fight was not a very smart fight to take. I fought a very tough guy, Mike Pyle. I showed up, I didn't have a cup, I didn't have a mouthpiece, I didn't have a corner. I didn't even spar. The fight started and I kind of froze, and I was just like, oh, we're gonna fight now. And it's over like in 2 minutes.
Despite the loss, John stuck with it. He won his next 2 fights and caught the attention of the San Jose-based American Kickboxing Academy.
We flew out to KKA for like a week to train, and I saw the trainers.
I'm gonna left hook, right hand kick.
I saw how many people were here, what kind of opportunities there were here, and I was like, I've got to get out here. I've got to move here. The day after my last final, I was packed in my car and headed out here. My budget was $800 a month. That's all I could afford to spend. $500 was rent. I think I had 3 shirts to work out in and like 2 or 3 shorts. So, you know, I would work out in the morning and set my clothes out in the sun to dry so I could wear them at night again to work out.
He ate ramen every day, ramen and tuna and eggs for lunch, breakfast, and dinner. And he didn't use napkins because he would wipe his hands on his dog.
Probably in about the first 6 months of him being here, and I saw how he was so focused on being in the gym and learning and being a student of the sport. This guy's gonna really go places.
You could see every month, 6 months goes by, it's a little bit different. A year later, it's very different. And it got to a point where I just couldn't submit him anymore.
John won his first 7 fights after joining AKA. In October of 2005, he made his UFC debut.
His first UFC fight was a tough fight. He fought Brock Larson, who was 16-0, I believe, at the time.
Absolutely dominating victory for John Fitch, who wins his UFC debut.
6 months later, John scored a second-round submission of Josh Berkman. Then he knocked out top contender Thiago Alves.
A big kick from the bottom by Alves. This could be it. It is all over. Very impressive performance by John Fitch.
By March of 2007, John was 5-0 in the UFC, but he was hardly a household name.
The first 3-4 fights, he fought undercard fights. No one knew who he was. He was the dark horse working his way up through the ranks.
That guy's an animal, and you know what? I say that he's the future of the division. John Fitch!
Before the Carneiro fight, at the weigh-ins, Dana approached me in my camp and said, we've done a terrible job of marketing you. We're going to change that in the future. We're going to make sure people know who you are.
After 6 consecutive wins in the UFC and 13 in a row overall, John was matched up against Diego Sanchez, winner of the first season of The Ultimate Fighter.
It's unbelievable. I can't believe they let me fight Diego.
Fitch realizes this could be the greatest moment of his mixed martial arts career.
It was an unbelievably great feeling to beat the guy who won the Ultimate Fighter the first season.
Now the world knows who John Fitch is. John Fitch, ladies and gentlemen.
On August 9th, John takes on the toughest welterweight in the world, George St-Pierre. A win would break the record for the most consecutive victories in UFC history and make John Fitch a world champion.
John Fitch worked for everything that he's gotten, and as a result of the hard work and the effort that he's put in, it shows you that anybody can make it to the top.
He took his natural ability and made it the return of his investment tenfold by his drive, his every single day drive.
To me, it's not about the money, it's not about the fame. I do this for me. I want to test myself and my skills. I want to know how good I am. I want to fight the best guys in the world. I'm going to beat George St-Pierre. I'm going to shock the world. I'm going to let everybody know how good of a fighter I am.
Up next.
I think Roger Huerta's been blown up a lot more by the media.
All he's done is explode, man.
It's a little soon in his career to fight somebody like Kenny Florian.
I think he broke his arm.
I'm going to find a way to win, and whatever it takes.
Before George St-Pierre puts his welterweight title on the line against top-ranked challenger John Fitch, UFC fans will be treated to one of the most anticipated lightweight matchups in years.
Florian
looking to finish. Here.
Roger Huerta versus Kenny Florian is honestly one of the fights that I'm the most excited about this year.
Good shots by Huerta.
This is going to be probably fight of the year.
Huerta and Florian are a study in contrasts.
I don't look like your typical fighter. I look like a regular guy. I look like I should be in the business world.
He looks like a kid that you'd go up and say, hey, nerd, be quiet before I slap you, and you'll wake up from your coma a year later.
That's a tough dude, Kenny Florian.
He didn't have to fight. He fight because that's what he wants to do, because it's a challenge for him. There are kids who are street kids who, by unfortunate circumstances, they have to fight.
Roger Huerta is one of those kids.
Basically, I was abandoned by my dad and my mom. You know, if it was gonna get done, I had to get it done. I couldn't depend on anybody, nobody.
He's been through some situations that I don't think anyone else that I know could even come close to have experiencing. Deep down, he's got the ability to pull from those experiences to get him through whatever he needs to.
Huerta relentless.
Roger's got this, I call it the Spanish heart. The more shots that you see Roger take, the better the fight's gonna become.
El Matador.
I mean, he looks more like the bull in this fight.
Huerta's last fight required all of his reserves. Late in the second round, he was rocked by Clay Guida.
Right when that happened,
Huerta got rocked!
3 to 5 seconds, I was out. Then I started seeing hair, fur. Then I could start seeing Clay Guida, like, and it all started kind of coming back, and I'm in a fight.
How did Huerta make it through that right that just crunched us?
Going into my corner, I started having flashbacks about my life.
Third and final round. Roger Huerta pushing forward.
It's a level that I can't explain, that I can reach, and I did reach at that time.
Huerta with the uppercut. Guida is in big trouble. It is over. Roger Huerta.
The victory brought Huerta's career record to 22-1, 6-0 in the UFC.
Now he's starting to get into some deep waters. He's going to start fighting some really tough guys. We're going to find out how good Roger Huerta is.
Kenny Florian is Huerta's highest-ranked opponent. Of his 10 wins, 4 by knockout, 6 by submission.
I've never had a judge determine whether I've won. It's kill or be killed.
Florian with a knee to the head.
He's going to show Huerta a new level of fighter, a new level of training. Kenny's going to stop at nothing to get that belt.
Excellent performance by Kenny Florian.
I think Roger Huerta's been blown up a lot more by the media because of him being Latino and him having a big following. He's a handsome devil, I'll admit that, and I'm a heterosexual and married for many years. But I think it's a little soon in his career to fight somebody like Kenny Florian.
In order to get ready, Roger has been training in New Mexico with Greg Jackson, in Denver with Nate Marquardt, and in Montreal with George St-Pierre.
He's on another level. He's seen a lot of new guys now. We're getting the work that he needs to, wrestling and sparring.
Roger's really worked on his power. Roger is going to be a totally different beast. I wouldn't be surprised if Roger ended the fight by TKO or knockout.
But Florian's camp thinks they've got the stronger man.
He wrecks anything in front of him. He's the type of guy you got to put a battle axe in his forehead.
Florian is so versatile.
It's going to be a great head-on fight. I think Kenny's going to wear him down, expose Huerta's weakness in the sense of his defense.
For most of Roger's fights, he's constantly been on the offense. They haven't necessarily needed to see his defense.
You know, Roger's going to overwhelm him with just his cardio, his endurance, and his drive to keep fighting.
He's kind of like the Terminator. You know, you hit him, and you expect him to be out, but he keeps coming at you. He keeps trucking forward. I'm going to have to be at my best. I have to beat him technically.
Kenny is a very technical fighter. I agree with that, but I also know that Roger had a fight with one of the top jiu-jitsu players in the world, with Alberto Crane, and had no problem, you know, escaping him.
Roger Huerta's doing a great job of avoiding these submissions and landing a lot of punishing blows.
Huerta's actually looking at the big screen to see where Alberto Crane is on his back.
You've never seen this before.
Stop.
My goal in the Roger Huerta fight is to pressure him from the beginning. Just attack, 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 and wait for that mistake. You know, as soon as that mistake happens, just jump on him and finish him off.
Kenny's a finisher. That's why people like to see him fight. He finishes.
A lot of people try to finish Roger, and come to find out, you can't finish him. He breaks people's spirits and their hearts, and he goes the distance.
I think you're gonna enjoy seeing Kenny land good strikes and get that look on his face like, what's gonna stop this guy?
Florian trying to press forward.
I think it's gonna be a great fight, but I see Kenny being the victor.
I think that I'm superior in all the different ranges of combat.
Big combinations by Huerta.
Everything that he's going to throw at me, I'm going to have an answer for it. I'm going in there to knock him out. I'm going in there to finish him.
I believe that I am going to do it. But at the end of the day, you know, I have to go out there and prove it.
I'm going to win this fight, period. Period.
Coming up, how Kenny Florian fell into mixed martial arts.
I slipped, fell, and went headfirst off of a cliff. I remember specifically thinking that this is how I'm gonna die. And I didn't get to do what I love doing.
High kick by
The samurais were poets, they were artists, but at the same time, when it came down to battle, they were brutal. They were efficient, trained killers.
That samurai attitude Kenny's always had. As long as you don't bother him, he doesn't bother you. But if you do pick on him, you know, that samurai comes out to defend himself to the death.
He truly is a scholar and a warrior. He has the samurai attitude.
They believed in spirit, mind, and fighting at the same time. That's kind of Kenny in a nutshell.
One of 6 children raised in suburban Boston, Kenny Florian studied karate and kung fu as a teenager. But it was on the soccer field that he really shined.
He just knew how to maneuver the ball, control the ball, shoot. He was a superstar, really, when it came to soccer.
Kenny joined the team at Boston College, where he was named to the All-Big East academic team. But after watching the first few UFC championships, Kenny switched goals.
All these masters were coming into the octagon and losing to the Gracies, oftentimes without even getting hit. They'd get wrapped up, tied up, and choked out.
There it is. He's tapping out. That's it.
That was beautiful. That was real combat. That's what got me excited again.
Kenny quit soccer and devoted his free time to learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Upon graduation, he took a promising job with a financial services company. But a trip to Brazil changed his career plans.
We went to this beautiful place called Pedra de Gávea. There's a mountain in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro. And we were descending down the mountain. I slipped, fell, and went headfirst off of a cliff. I remember specifically thinking that this is how I'm gonna die. And I didn't get to do what I love doing. Luckily landed on a rock, on a ledge. If I didn't fall on that ledge, I would have fallen hundreds of feet, and definitely it would have been bad.
He rolled over and he looked, he says, okay, that would have been the end. That would have been the finish of Kenny Florian without me leaving my mark on this world.
He didn't want to be working at an office desk saying, oh, I could have been a fighter. I could have done that.
So I decided to, you know, get out of the business world and go into martial arts.
His dream is to become a world champion in the UFC.
Kenny won 2 of his first 3 MMA fights, earning a spot on the first season of The Ultimate Fighter on Spike.
Being on The Ultimate Fighter was a real exciting opportunity for me. I was the smallest guy on the show, and I was the least experienced on the show.
Kenny overcame the odds and reached the middleweight finals, his first fight on national TV.
The Ultimate Fighter gave Kenny the catapult and the lift he needed to get into the public's eye.
After impressive wins over Alex Karalexis,
Florian with a knee to the head.
Kid Cope,
I think that's it. I think he broke his arm.
and Sam Stout.
Kenny Florian, very naked choke, defeats Sam Stout.
Kenny took on heavily favored veteran Sean Shirk for the vacant lightweight title.
That was definitely one of the bloodiest fights in the UFC. All the blood was just, you know, going into Kenny's eyes and nose and ears.
I guess the thing that he most remembers is the iron. You could smell the iron in the blood. I could still taste it to this day.
Despite the bloody head, Shirk controlled the action, winning a unanimous decision and teaching Kenny a lesson.
It really opened up my eyes to world-class fighting. I thought Sean Shirk was a world-class fighter. I wanted to get to that level. I needed to up my training.
I swear to God, that's when Kenny changed as a fighter. After that Sean Shirk fight, he was never the same again.
I hired Kevin Kearns as my strength conditioning coach.
Rock and roll.
I started getting quality sparring partners. Now people are commenting on how strong I am. It's been a huge, huge change in my body and in the way that I train and fight.
Since the Shirk fight, Kenny's won 4 straight, 3 by submission and 1 by strikes.
He's going to rule the lightweight division for a long time, and I want to see him. I want to see him do it. I want to be next to him when he raises his hand.
People think that, you know, oh, Kenny's getting better all the time, you know. Well, wait till they see the next fight, and the fight after that, and the fight after that. It's never going to stop.
Up next, the remarkable journey of Roger Huerta.
I couldn't depend on anybody. Nobody. For 19 years of my life, I really couldn't depend on anyone.
I know he slept on rooftops when he had no place to go.
Every day was a grind. Every day.
In May of 2007, Roger Huerta went 3 epic rounds with fellow lightweight Leonard Garcia.
Spectacular fight here tonight. What a pace.
Huerta's performance impressed viewers, but it was his sportsmanship that really won them over.
These guys just got done beating the hell out of each other. They're standing in front of each other talking, man to man now. What a great display of heart and courage and skill.
Class personified by Roger Huerta.
A week later, Sports Illustrated ran its first major article on mixed martial arts. And the first UFC fighter to grace the storied magazine's cover was Roger Huerta.
He's the whole package. He's a good-looking kid. He speaks well. This kid looks like a Calvin Klein model, but fights like, you know, any of the toughest Mexican fighters in the history of the sport.
Roger Huerta wins again.
I'm in awe of him, to be honest. Go through those difficulties as a child and turn out to be a good person. It's a pretty unbelievable story.
Raised in Dallas, Texas by a Mexican father, Rogelio, and an El Salvadoran mother, Lydia, Roger Huerta had a happy childhood until age 6. That's when Lydia discovered Rogelio was having an affair.
I just remember her coming home bawling, and I mean, she went crazy, man, crazy.
Lydia took her frustration out on Roger with her fists.
I don't know if it's because I looked like him, and I don't know, and I don't think I'll ever know.
The abuse continued for months until Roger could take it no longer.
I was all messed up, I remember, and my teacher, what happened to you? I'm like, man, my mom hit me. Sure enough, Child Protective Service took me away from her.
After some time in a foster home, Roger was returned to his father. But when he was 7, Lydia showed up again to abduct him. Lydia drove Roger all the way down to war-torn El Salvador to live with her parents and left him there.
The Civil War was going on around that time. You always heard the gunshots, you always heard some bombings, and I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't leave. My mom comes back out of nowhere. So my mom leaves me in my dad's front doorstep. She takes off, and that's the last time I saw her. The last. The abuse started again with my stepmom hitting me for no reason. I mean, literally just like, what was so bad that I did, or that I could have done, that, you know, that you just had to lose it like that on me.
My dad caught my stepmom beating on me again. Then, you know, we ended up going to Mexico.
And that's where basically his side of his family is.
Just 9 years old, Roger was expected to support himself.
My job was, you know, sell chicles, rosarios. Those tourists would come, get off, and then you go and try to hustle, man.
After a few months, Rogelio retrieved Roger and brought him to the tough border town of Pharr, Texas, where Roger's stepmother resumed the cycle of abuse.
I can't see myself punching a kid in the face, abusing him verbally, physically, at that age. I couldn't see myself doing that. You know, like, so my dad, my real mom, my stepmom, all them, seriously, because how dare you? How dare you? You know?
To make things worse, Rogelio vanished from Roger's life.
He started doing drugs and, yeah, man, basically forgot he had a son. Was kicked out of the house.
Roger was 11, homeless, and completely alone. With no parental supervision, he joined a street gang, the TCB Bombers.
The living situation wasn't pretty, man. I lived in a shack, basically. You know, it sucked, man. You know, you're around drugs all the time.
I know he slept on rooftops when he had no place to go.
Every day was a grind. Every day. And I was tired of it. I was so tired of it.
In 9th grade, a classmate's mother assumed custody of Roger. A year later, she moved the family to Austin. The move brought Roger into a new school district and into contact with the two people who would save his life.
This is Crockett High School. This is where Roger Huerta went to school his senior year, and where things took a turn for the better.
A gifted athlete, Roger played football and wrestled at Crockett High. His senior year, a new wrestling coach, Brian Ashford, took over the team and Roger's life.
His word meant a lot. Like, if he would say something to you, like, Roger, this is what's gonna happen. And by kind, that's what happened. Like, I mean, he delivered every time.
We started spending a lot of time together. He started opening up about his background. And, you know, when I first heard it, it almost seemed unreal.
He became the first male role model for me in 18 years. And then I told him, I'm like, here's my life, take it. Just get me somewhere.
Coach Ashford tried to get Roger into Augsburg College, a Division III wrestling powerhouse in Minneapolis. Roger turned to his English teacher, Joe Ramirez, for help with a scholarship application.
I asked her to help me write this essay. She's like, write something up and then bring it to me. And I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do? Well, I'm gonna say why I really need this money. And sure enough, I kind of started writing a brief of my life story.
And he told me about it, and he had tears in his eyes, and I'm sure I did too by the time he finished.
Yeah, man, I needed help. I needed a lot of help. I was exhausted by the...
I guess by the time we got to the end of that school year, I loved him like the same way I love my other children. And so I was going to help him, and that's what I did with my kids. And by them, in my heart, he was my kid.
With the support of Joe and Coach Ashford, Roger was admitted to Augsburg. Joe rented Roger a car and sent him on his way, but she couldn't let the story end there.
Toward the end of the first semester at Augsburg, I thought about it and knew I loved him. I just wanted him to be a part of my family because I didn't want him to drift off. Had to keep tabs on him, I guess.
She was the only person that would call, how you doing? How was school today? Did you eat anything today? You know, like things like that. You know, I couldn't get rid of this lady.
And so I talked to him on the phone one night and asked him if he would like to be adopted. I said, you don't have to answer me right now. You know, you can think about it. So he thought about it for about 6 seconds and said yes. So we got the ball rolling.
I didn't know that somebody could just give and want nothing in return. I didn't have anybody then, and she was the only one there, like really, really there. So I said, why not?
The adoption became legal early in Roger's sophomore year. When he returned to Texas for Thanksgiving that November, he celebrated with his 7 new brothers and sisters.
So that's my family now, and it's an amazing feeling. Amazing, amazing feeling.
When he faces Kenny Florian on August 9th, Roger will once again draw from the experiences that have shaped him.
There's nothing a man can do to me that hasn't been done to me already. Whatever it takes, you know, I'm gonna find a way to win, whatever it takes.
Coming up, Minnesota's own takes on the Texas Crazy Horse.
We haven't seen him get hit or kicked yet, so I don't know, he might buckle.
Wow! I'm not afraid to get hit. I got a head like a ball-peen hammer.
Also on the card, former NCAA wrestling champion and Minnesota native, Brock Lesnar returns home to challenge former Pride star Heath Herring.
I'll be in the great state of Minnesota, in my backyard. That's huge for me.
Brock Lesnar's the guy who was a huge superstar in the WWE. He was their #1 guy, and he just got up and walked away one day. Left a bunch of money on the table and just got up and walked away. He had 2 dreams. He wanted to play professional football, and he wanted to fight in mixed martial arts. He tried out for professional football, and when that didn't work out for him, he went after mixed martial arts.
Why MMA? Something I wanted to do for as long as I can remember. Standing there and actually being face-to-face with another human being and getting ready to throw down with them is, to me, a natural feeling, I would have to say.
We put him against former world champion Frank Mir. Brock came out and handled him and put him down and was absolutely smashing him.
Oh, he rocks Frank Mir! Mir is in trouble!
He tried the armbar attempts, and I avoided those. So then he went to my legs, and you know, it was a mistake on my part. I let him have it.
In order to even up his UFC record, Lesnar will have to beat the dangerous Heath Herring, who's coming off a March victory over Czech Congo.
Brock Lesnar is a pretty one-dimensional fighter. I fought bigger wrestlers, I fought stronger wrestlers, I fought more accomplished wrestlers. So this is by no means something I haven't done before.
I'm gonna figure out how to beat Heath Herring on the road for me to becoming the UFC heavyweight champion.
You're gonna come across the ring and it's gonna be like Godzilla and King Kong going at it, bud. With head kicks and elbows and all that crazy stuff. We haven't seen him get hit or kicked yet, so I don't know, he might buckle.
Good strikes by Heath Herring. Left, right. Right on, turn, down.
I'm not afraid to get hit. I got a head like a ball-peen hammer.
I'll be out there with my crazy hair, and he'll be with his big head, and we'll go at it.
One welterweight title fight.
My job is to destroy my opponent. That's what I'm gonna do August 9th.
I think that when you put 2 athletes together like me and GSP, there's nothing short of fireworks possible.
One lightweight war.
I want to become the world champion. I want to be known as the best fighter in the world.
One heavyweight collision.
Lights, camera, action. Let's do this.